Hello! In today's screencast I want to have a look at using arrays. I want to introduce the concept of arrays and show you how to find items in an array. So the best way to think about an array is a list of something. It can be a list of anything. It can be a list of strings, a list of integers. Can't think of what else. Probably wouldn't want to be a list of anything else really. But well, it could be a list of bytes or whatever else, but let's just text or numbers, for example. You can get more complex arrays, but we'll just stick with numbers and strings for today. So let's imagine I've got a list of names. So Fred, Tom, Lily, Jen, and Bob. So here I've got 5 items in my list. So you could say I've got a list of arrays. Now the way that most programming languages handle arrays is that they index them from 0. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they're normally 0 based. So they'll go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, like this. Now let's say, for example, I wanted to create an array in Python. So I will go, be messing about with some Python stuff here. So I'm going to create a new module here. And in my module, I'm going to create an array of names. So I'm going to call it names. And I'm going to give it the values. Can't remember what names I picked before, so we'll just make them up as we go along. Whoops. There was a Lily in there, wasn't there? Okay. And we'll do one more because we had one more in our list. Tom, we had a Tom in there. Let's do a Tom there. Tom's a good name. So in our array, we've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 items. Now if I want to print out any of the items in the array, I can print them out by selecting them by their index. So we'll just do a simple print statement. So if I want to print out an item within my names array, I have to give it the index of the array. So I'm going to print out Bob's name. And Bob is at 0, 1 in the array. So its index is 1. So if we just run that, I'll have to save it. Okay, so here we've printed out Bob here. Excellent. And we can just play about that. So if I type in 0, 1, 2, 3, it should give us the value Lily. So if I type in Lily there, 3 there, we should get the value Lily out here. Brilliant. That's exactly what I wanted to see. So that's an array of names. We can have an array of numbers. So 0, 1, 2, whoops, more complicated. Okay, so now if I just comment that out and we print out an item within our numbers array, so we'll give it the name of the array, and then wrong kind of bracket, I want to print out this value here. So what do you think I might need for the index there? Let's have a look. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I add the value 4 here and run this, we can see that the value 8 is printed out here. If I want to get access to this number here, it's 0, 1, 2 in the array. So I'll just type in 2, and the answer we should get should be 2. Brilliant, we've got the answer 2 there. So that's pretty cool. That's just how to have a list of information that you might want to use and access. But is it really, how can we use it more effectively? What's a good way, a good example of how to use this? Well, I want to just go back to a question and answer thing. So last week we did some work, or the week before we did some work on like a guess my password. So you randomize the password and you ask the user a question, and your user had to guess the answer. Well, let's just imagine you might have a number of questions, so not just one question, a number of questions you want to ask your user. So now I'm just going to create a new array called question. And in my question, call it question 1, I'm going to give it a question. So, how many sides does a pentagon have? And I'm going to give it an answer. Okay, so now I can print my question. So the question is 0 in my array. So this array has 2 items in it, and the first item is at index 0 and the second item is at index 1. So if I want to print out this question, I have to get the item at index 0. So if I try to run this now, we'll see what happens. Okay, I got an error. That's okay, I like to leave my errors in so you can see how to resolve them yourself when I'm not there. And this is an error that comes up all the time. So this is telling me that the variable question is not defined. So if I have a look and I see where's the variable question? The variable question's here, but I thought I'd declared it. Oh no, look at the difference between that and that. That's question 1 and that's question. So there's never been a variable called question ever defined. It was question 1. So let's just run it. Okay, how many sides does a pentagon have? And we can print the answer just the same. Print it on a new line. So remember, we just do \n and then I can add my answer. So I go to the question array and then I select the second item in the array, which is at index 0, 1. So it's at index 1. So if I try and run this. Oh, now this is interesting and it's really important as well, so I'm kind of pleased this has happened. Okay. What I am doing here is I am building up a string. So when I've got anything in quotes, actually I should keep that consistent. I'll put in single quotes. It doesn't matter whether they're in single or double quotes, but I'll keep it consistent. So when I've got something in a single quote like this, it tells me that this is a string. So this is a string here, our question's a string here. But this over here isn't in quotes, and it's a number. So it's an integer. Okay? So when I have a string, and I'm trying to concatenate it, so we're trying to add 2 parts here, this part and this part together to write them out, this is telling me that I can't convert this to a string. I can't force this to be a string, to be concatenated on either side of here. So I'll just give you an example. If I was to do this, hello, and then add, and then world, well, just for the sake of this demonstration, I'll just comment these out here. On this side here I've got a string because it's in a single quote, and this side here I've got a string because it's in a single quote, and I'm adding them together, I'm concatenating them using this plus sign. So if I just do a run here, we can see that it's quite happy to type out hello world, but it didn't like it when we try to combine a string with this value here, which clearly isn't a string because it's not in single quote, it's an integer. So it's saying you cannot concatenate a string with an integer. Come on, Kay, you should know better than that. Just comment that out. So the way that we can convert an integer to a string is by this handy little function called str. So all I did there was I typed in str and added an open bracket, and then I need a closing bracket for the end of that function. So this is a Python string function which is going to convert this value here to this integer here to a string. And don't forget to put your closing bracket there. So you've got an opening bracket for the print function, a closing bracket for the print function, an open bracket for the string function, and a closing bracket for the string function. So now when I run this, it should print the answer. So the answer is 5. And that's because the thing at index 1 in the question 1 array, 0, 1, is number 5. I printed that out as a string. So brilliant. So now we've got our question and we've got our answer. How many sides does a pentagon have? 5. Okay. Brilliant. We'll just comment that out a minute and build this up. So now I can do, move them down, I can get an input from a user. So I'm going to ask the user a question using my input function, and then I'm going to get the user answer and compare the user's answer to the actual answer here. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll create a variable called userGet. Oops. And I'm going to make that equal to whatever the user inputs, and I'm going to print out this question to the user here. So I'm going to go to my question 1 array and get the item at the 0 index, which is the first item in the array, and I'm going to print it out to my user. And I'm actually just going to add a little question mark on the end there to make it a bit nicer. Doesn't do anything, it's just to make it look a bit more like a question to the user. I could have put my question mark up there, but when I start adding a couple of questions and answers in, it means that I don't have to keep typing out that question mark. You'll see in a minute when I get to that. So that's going to get my user's input, and then I also have to get this answer here. So the answer will be equal to question 1, and it's the second item in the array, which is at index 1, 0, 1. So the user gets, I'm getting from the input, the answer I'm getting from the array, and we'll just test the user's gets against the answer. Okay, so if user get is exactly equal to the answer, I'm going to print correct. Else I'm going to print incorrect. And that's not going to work. Can anybody see why that's not going to work? I missed out some important bits of my if statement there. A little colons here. I'll freak out without that. So let's run it. So how many sides does pentagon have? Type in 5. Incorrect. Why is that incorrect? Well, remember what happened before when I was trying to force an integer to be a string. What this is I'll just talk you through what's happening here. When I take an input from the user, it's a string. So even though I'm passing in the number 5, the Python compiler is saying it's as if it's reading it in a quote, as if I'm passing in this rather than this. So it's trying to compare this to this. This is a string and this is an integer. And the string can't be an integer, so the answer would be false. I would expect it to say that my answer is incorrect. In order to make my test be like this, I have to convert the user's input. I have to convert my answer to a string, same as we did before. So the answer is the integer, the user guesses the string. So I need to use that string function to convert the answer to a string. So now that's the same as doing this and this. So is this exactly equal to this? Comment that out for reference. So if I run it now, didn't fail because it said no, a string 5 is not equal to an integer 5, so it's incorrect. Now if I type in 5, it's comparing these two values, they're both strings, and it's correct. Brilliant. Okay, I can get rid of, well, I'll leave that in. We'll just comment this out so that you get a better understanding, and it's good to have a recap. Create an array called question, question1, and give it a question and answer. No, let's not do that. Create an array called question1. The item at index 0 is the question. The item at index 1 is the answer. Okay, so we know what's going on here now. Get the user's guess. Display the question at index 0 of the question 1 array and get the user's input response to that question. Assign the user's input to the variable user guess. That's what's going on here. Get the answer. So of course we didn't actually need this line of code. We could have just done this. In fact, I'm going to do that because that's called refactoring the code. It means that we can get rid of this now. We'll just do it in this one line of code rather than in two there. So if the check to see if the user's guess, if the user's guess is the same as the item at index 1 of question 1 array. Don't forget the user's input will be a string whilst the integer the item at index 1 is an integer, so we need to convert the integer to a string so we can compare two strings. Without it, we will get an error. I'll just leave that string 5 exactly got the string 5 there, so it reminds us of what we're doing. And then we know the if else statement. If it's true, print correct. If it's not, print incorrect. I'll get rid of all this bump down here now. So that's it. Brilliant. Now we know how to create an array, and now we know how to access items in an array as well. So we can have as many of these as we want. Question 2 equals what is the color of danger? So for that answer I'm gonna have red. Now this is a string, so I wonder what will happen here. So for this one, I'm just going to change this here and do question 2. We'll know the question's still at index 0, and I've added me question mark on here. It saves us having to do it twice there. I might change my mind and change that for a colon, for example, but I've only got to do it once there rather than on every question. And I'm going to check the guess against the question 2 answer, which is here. So let's just run it and see what happens here. What is the color of danger? If I type in red, it still says that that's correct. And that's because it's just converting a string to a string, so that's fine. That's good, because it means it's able to deal with this integer here and this string here without any extra effort. So there you are. You can create as many questions and answers as you want. If you wanted to pick from one of these randomly, you would have to create some sort of random function that allows you to pick either this question here or this question here. We've done random functions in class, so there isn't a video for it, but you should have done the check a guess task in class. If anybody who wasn't in class would like to see the check a guess task, all you have to do is respond to this video and I shall upload it for you. And that's about it, really. That's how to do a question and answer array in Python.